Now let's get the show started. Various reactions have trailed the 2019 general elections, and many have said that the INEC did well, and to others, the INEC did not do as well as it ought to have, didn't do as well as it did in 2015. Also, the role of the military in this process was questioned by some. Mixed reactions, but we have some people in the studio who are going to help us analyze the 2019 elections. It's my pleasure to welcome Norua Adopolo, a development expert.
Thank you. Always a pleasure to be here.
Good morning.
Morning.
And we also have a legal practitioner and someone that I fondly call Mr. Proverbs, Mr. Chima Naji. Good morning.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
We expect the spokesperson to the Borno State Governor, Mr. Issa Gusau, to join us from our studio in Abuja in the course of this conversation. But we have our guests in Lagos, so let's begin with Mr. Adopolo. How would you rate the 2019 general elections?
Okay. I would say, you know, when you say done and dusted, I would say it's done but not dusted.
Sure.
So if we just compare even the most recent, 2015, to this one, and if you say, for example, if you go by the number of inconclusive, 2015 was better. If you go by the incidents of violence, 2015 was better. If you go by voters' turnout, 2015 was better. If you go by just the general mood of the nation, 2015 was better. So I mean, it's obvious that, you know, I'm not saying who's at fault. I'm just saying that these are the, you know, it's like the marks. Just look at the marks and just compare.
So you've got check for 2015.
15 compared
Is there
to
no
this one.
check for 2019 at all?
Even 2019, which is the most recent one, really. 2015, well, for this one, you know, it's interesting. Usually we've had violence up north, which is far away, in quotes. This time around, violence is more...
It was like next door.
Next doors. Most unlikely places. You almost are wondering, what are they fighting for in the places where they're fighting? You know what I mean? So, you know, somebody needs to ask and say, what exactly are we missing, and why are we having this crisis where there ought to be nothing really? You know? So, if you look at it, and then INEC, consciously or otherwise, haven't conveyed a semblance of being in charge or in control. Too many fingers pointing in their direction, you know, and so even if you try your best to say, okay, let's defend INEC, it becomes harder and harder as you know, see those clips on social media. Unfortunately, information is no longer the sole preserve of anybody. It's been democratized, all right? So there's so much you can hide nowadays. So whereas we may not discuss them on air here, but we're all aware of what we're seeing and reading and watching. And so you want to ask yourself, has INEC improved? I really, really doubt if any sincere and genuine observer would say that INEC has done much better than the previous two times. Okay.
Mr. Naji, your thoughts?
Well, let me start by saying that since you say I'm Mr. Proverb.
Oh, you're going to give us one to begin?
Yes, because they say that the hen would not be able to communicate with the chicks, except it goes with the instinctual communication buzz of quackum. You know, you'll be hearing quackum, 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 quackum. It's calling the chicks to order, and you see them fight behind it. So if I don't deliver one or two proverbs, it means I probably may not have been around. So perhaps just to encapsulate what my colleague has just said, capture it in a proverb format. If you start laughing at the basket, how rickety it is, you are inadvertently laughing at the person who is carrying it. Because a rickety basket can only be carried in a showmanship manner by somebody who is also rickety, either in thinking or appearance. I will explain what I mean. He talked about violence, especially down south, where there ought not to have been any, ordinarily speaking. Yeah. It is obvious that some of them were contrived from what we hear and learn, even visuals from mainstream television houses. So if they were contrived, it means that the minds behind that contrivance were desperate to achieve certain ends. But ultimately, as ordinary people in the street, we see that as violence. And we feel it either in death or hospitalization, where he was comparing 2015 and 2019. The bumpiness of a ride depends on, one, the dexterity of the driver in maneuvering. Even the road may be bumpy and bad, but he's so dexterous that he knows how to maneuver and meander, such that people in the car continually experience pleasurable ride in spite of a very bad and rough road. What we have experienced is a difference between a leader who said that no blood should be spilled. That statement alone has a very reverberative effect, even if it was not intended. But people see it. It's like when a man tells a woman in the public, I love you. Other women retreat, even if he's a bad man, ordinarily. But that is the one by which he will be judged. Those who would have come to embrace him openly will retreat. At least that has reduced the number. So the point I'm making here, if you get my drift, is that leadership is very important. If the government in place in 2019, as at this now, this 2019, had made a categorical statement that, apart from the platitudes of there should be no violence, but we see violence packaged in different formats, and there is no consequences. So we have to put that in perspective. There is no way you can have a peaceful electoral outcome where the body language of leadership is not in tandem with that expectation.
Well, we've since been joined by the spokesperson to the Borno State Governor, Mr. Issa Gusau, who is joining us from our studio in Abuja. Mr. Gusau, good morning.
Good morning. And it's always good to be here.
Thank you for joining us. Now, how would you assess the 2019 elections, at least what we have done so far?
I would say there are two ways to look at it. On the one hand, there's a crisis of expectation. On the other hand, I would say that the INEC, I would give the INEC a good score for one reason. Not because the APC swept the whole of Borno, but the fact that we tend to ignore the challenges that the INEC has had. I am not here to speak for the INEC, but I would want us to recall how long it took the INEC to become heard by the National Assembly, how long it took them to get the approvals that they needed. A lot of these things require a lot of money. And of course, we know that there were delays here and there, but we must acknowledge that there is a lot the INEC needs to learn from the 2019 elections, and we hope that there will be improvements. I think they did not substantially meet the expectations of Nigerians. But of course, we know that in this country, unfortunately, most of us generally have where we are tilted to, in terms of politics, and whatever result, whatever comes out, you would always have divergent views. Unfortunately, such views will be dependent on where political people have, the political interests. But I think the INEC has a lot to learn from the 2019 elections. I may be going further, I will make some interventions, but for now, I would say the INEC did its best given the circumstance it found itself, because we must not ignore that the INEC had difficulty in being able to access funds. We shouldn't forget about that. But like I said, based on the fact that the INEC itself kept on assuring Nigerians that all was well, I think the mere fact that the election had to be postponed, in the first instance, wasn't a good thing. But I think, they must have learned from 2019, and we hope to get something better in the future.